As some abortion clinics have been ruled non-essential businesses by several state governments, there is a popular new option available. It's called teleabortion. This method allows women seeking abortions to have video consultations with certified doctors, then receive abortion pills by mail. Since the coronavirus pandemic began, there's been an increase in the use of this procedure. There are currently 13 states that allow teleabortions. The procedure has been FDA approved for at least 20 years. In February, a bill was introduced by Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy to ban these teleabortions. New York Mayor Bill de Blasio lashed out at Hasidic residents of the Williamsburg section of Brooklyn late Tuesday night. This after personally overseeing the dispersal of hundreds of mourners who had gathered for the funeral of a rabbi who died of the coronavirus. In a series of tweets, de Blasio denounced the gathering, saying, quote, "My message to the Jewish community and all communities is this simple. The time for warnings has passed. I've instructed the NYPD to proceed immediately to summons or even arrest those who gather in large groups. This is about stopping this disease and saving lives, period." Jewish leaders reacted to the warning with outrage. On Wednesday, de Blasio apologized for his language, but said he had no regrets about calling out this danger. President Trump held a conference call with Catholic leaders earlier this week. Among the issues discussed were abortion, religious freedom, and school choice. A number of bishops on the call brought up the financial toll taken by the nation's Catholic schools during this ongoing pandemic. The president assured leaders of his support on issues important to Catholics and said he would seek federal financial support for Catholic schools. Joining me now to discuss the financial stress faced by Catholic schools in his diocese and more is Bishop Thomas Paprocki of Springfield, Illinois. Bishop Paprocki, thank you for being here. I want to start with the National Catholic Education Association. Now, many schools, they say, across the country have sustained severe financial stress since this pandemic began in the U.S. What's the situation been like in your diocese?
Well, our schools are still in session. They're continuing to operate. Of course, they're operating online with students at home. But from what I hear from my staff, our superintendent of schools, it's going pretty well. Our school year normally ends the end of May, so we have another month to go. But it looks like it's going all right. We are also encouraging our parishioners to continue to make their donations online. We actually have people dropping off envelopes at their parishes. So we're trying to get the word out that even though we're not functioning as we normally do with gatherings of large people, we still are trying to offer our services, and we still have expenses. So people have been responding very well, and thanks be to God, we're doing all right.
Bishop Paprocki, as I mentioned earlier, this past Saturday, President Trump had a call with several hundred participants regarding Catholic schools, including Cardinal Timothy Dolan of New York, Cardinal Sean O'Malley of Boston, Archbishop Jose Gomez of L.A., the president of the USCCB. The topic of federal support of Catholic schools was a primary concern, even though some schools have obtained SBA loans, Small Business Administration loans, under this new Paycheck Protection Program. Have the schools in your area needed those loans? Is there enough to sustain the payroll of school administrators and teachers through next fall?
No, we have needed those loans, and we have applied and received funding for our schools, our parishes, as well as Catholic charities and the services that we're providing for the needy here. We did look at that very carefully. I had our lawyers here for the diocese and also the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. We're very concerned taking money from the government about any strings that might be attached to them. We have some rather sad history here in Illinois of being forced out of foster care and adoption because we would not agree to placing foster care children with same-sex couples. And so we want to be very careful that if we take government money, that they won't be telling us, well, in exchange for this money, you're going to have to follow these particular guidelines or even curriculum for your schools. And so we were assured that there were some protections in there for religious liberty, and so we proceeded with that. And thankfully, that money has come through. Otherwise, I think we would have been in more severe trouble.
The question of loss of tuition from families who suffered layoffs remains a concern. Now, the president on this call said he would seek financial support for Catholic schools as they confront the corona pandemic. Cardinal O'Malley urged the president to guarantee tuition assistance to families sending kids to Catholic schools. As you look at the Catholic schools in your area and those around the country, are you concerned that the layoffs are going to reduce the number of children who can attend Catholic schools next year?
Well, I haven't gotten any indication of that so far. I mean, at this point, of course, they're adjusting to try to work with their students at home, and they're being very creative with that in terms of the teachers are using their technology, and they're not only giving lessons, but doing what a Catholic school should do. They're praying with their students, and they often have a reflection. Either the principal or a teacher or even the students will give a reflection. As to what we're going to have to do in the fall, I mean, it remains to be seen. I certainly hope that we can go back to having our students in the classrooms, but even for now, under these very restricted conditions, I have to say that people are adapting, and so our schools are continuing.
Well, I have to say the daily schedule of the Catholic schools, public schools as well, I imagine, but with my children, I see it. They set their alarms, they're up, they have to check in. As you said, the principal does kind of a prayer for the day, a thought for the day, and then they go to their classes at appointed times. That schedule, it seems to me, has been a lifeline to these kids, giving them a sense of security and a sense of what that day is going to look like. How important is that for children, for families, in an odd situation like this?
Well, it's very important to keep a schedule like that. And what we've been trying to emphasize is that schools are still in session, but they're just in a different location. So just as you would come to school, you'd be sitting in a classroom, you'd be following a schedule of classes and different subject matter at different times of day. That should still be done at home. And I think the challenge there is more for the parents who are at home with their children. I think our teachers are used to following a schedule in the normal course of a school day, but parents who are at home with their children may not be. And so in some ways, I think those families that have been homeschooling, they have a better sense of how to do that. In fact, I think in some cases, non-homeschooling parents are turning to homeschooling parents and say, how do we do this? And I think they're sharing some of their wisdom with them as well, because they've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. Earlier this week, Cardinal Dolan shared his reflections on that call he had with the president over the weekend. This is what he told Fox. Listen.
I really salute his leadership. I salute the leadership here, too, of our governor and our mayor, and everybody has really come through. But the president has seemed particularly sensitive to to what shall I say, to the feelings of the religious community.
Now, the LA Times, in an article this week, they ran an opinion piece that suggested that the Catholic bishops should avoid praising the president and take a vow of silence first. Another fringe Catholic columnist suggested that Cardinal Dolan should resign for being on the call at all. Is it out of line for bishops to engage the president on behalf of their people and on behalf of Catholic schools?
Not at all. In fact, I think that reflects an attitude that religion is a matter of a private belief, that you people who have religious beliefs, you just kind of keep those to yourself. But our understanding of our faith, it's freedom, not just freedom of worship, which is sometimes what people want to say. It's freedom of religion, which means the exercise of religion. We have a place in the public square. We have hospitals, we have schools. We're functioning and helping the community. And so we are citizens as well. We're part of the community, and I think we have to have a voice at the table as well. So it's not just a question of kind of sitting back.
Yeah, no, well, that's if these leaders who are elected by the bishops to be their representatives, if they don't engage the president, who's going to engage him? Who's going to engage with secular authority? I mean, do you just let the entire social network of the church, the safety net that the church has created over decades, wither because of a pandemic? I mean, I don't really understand the thinking here, except there seems to be a loaded political agenda which really has no place or shouldn't have any place when people are suffering, dying, and out of work. I mean, this is when people need their faith and they're representatives of faith more than ever, it seems to me.
Well, we definitely need to be in conversation with our civic officials. Yes, we do avoid in getting ensnared in partisan politics, but at the same time, as I said, we're involved in the community, and so as we look to reopening and welcoming people back physically into our churches and into our schools, there has to be a plan for how we do that. And this indications I have, it's not going to just be a green light, all clear, and everybody can come back. It's probably going to be phased in some respect.
Right.
So what's that going to look like, and how are we going to do that with our people? It's not simply a matter of saying, okay, you can go to mass now, but if there's, for example, if there's a numerical limitation that you can have 50 people
Right.
in church, you have 100 people in church. Well, how do you do that? So we're
Right.
already talking about some ways of maybe rolling out a plan of alphabetically telling people that you're designated to go to a particular mass. Maybe you won't be able to go every week, but maybe once a month at the beginning. Well, we still
Wow.
would have the dispensation from going to mass every Sunday, but maybe we would phase it in over a period of time. And so rather than just being all at once, it would come in gradually. But we have to be in conversation with our government officials of what that's going to look like.
Now, there have been close to 50,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Illinois, Bishop. Now, Governor Pritzker is going to begin to open up some businesses this coming Friday, May 1st, while still keeping a stay-at-home order. Do you expect public masses following social distancing guidelines at that time, or are you going to wait?
No, the indication is that our limitation on public gatherings will be a limit of 10 people until the end of May. So that presents a real difficulty for us. We are
Wow.
continuing to live stream our masses, and we're very fortunate that we're getting a lot of people that are tuning into these live stream masses. In fact, in some cases, we're getting more people watching on the live stream during the week than would physically be in church. So, we are reaching a lot of people. Our churches are also here in my diocese in Springfield. Our churches are actually open during the day, so people
Right.
can come in and pray. And a handful of people may be in the church at any given time. We have priests hearing confessions. Other than that, we are continuing to try to urge people to participate as best they can. The biggest disadvantage, obviously, is if people are watching the Mass on a live stream, they're not able to receive Holy Communion. And in that regard, I've been trying to urge people to look at this as a spiritual sacrifice, not just a deprivation, because if it's a deprivation, we feel angry about that. But actually, Pope Benedict XVI, back when he was prefect for the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, Cardinal Ratzinger, he talked about spiritual fasting from Holy Communion, that at times, just as we fast from food and we have a greater longing for food, maybe we should fast from time to time from Holy Communion, so we'd have a longing for the sacrament. Now, this was long before coronavirus, so he was pointing this out as something positive and constructive to do. So that, along with making a spiritual communion, the people that when you can't physically receive Holy Communion, just offer a prayer of desire. Tell God in your own words, Lord, I miss you, I long for you, I look forward to the day when I can receive you again, but in the meantime, I ask you to come into my heart. You just make a prayer like that.
Yeah. Bishop, it does, as I watch this playing out across the country, even in my own hometown, it seems odd to me that I can be in Lowe's or Home Depot with literally hundreds of people, but I can't go into the church with 20 or 30, a huge church that can seat 1,500 people. Isn't there can't the government make some accommodation for this? Or could you do multiple masses a day in a parish where you could space out and say, we're only going to have 60 people at this mass, everybody's social distanced, but surely the health threat can't be any more onerous than going to Lowe's or Home Depot.
Right, I think that's a very good point. And I think what we've been trying to do is balance the different interests here. On the one hand, we want to be good citizens. We also want to cooperate with precautions and make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to infect people or harm people or spread contagion. At the same time, though, we are a church, and a church by its nature is an assembly. That's the word church. Ecclesia means assembly. So we can't continue indefinitely to be doing this online. At some point, we need to be able to come back and have people in our churches. How we're going to do that, whether or not, as I said, maybe just kind of do it in gradually or assign people alphabetically that they could come to different masses. I think just having a lot of masses in the course of a day with a smaller group, that's a problem in some ways, because in many parishes we only have one or two priests, and it's not like they can say mass every hour on the hour, because first of all, there's a canonical limitation on how many masses a priest should say in a day, but also I don't want this to simply be something that a priest becomes like a mass machine, and then it becomes sort of, if you have to be it's a prayer. A priest is leading a prayer, and you can't just do that every hour on the hour with the same fervor and dynamism that you would have in your homily every hour. So, there's just we're in a kind of a unique position, and so I think we're going to have to continue to have those conversations with our government officials to see, if they're opening things up for businesses and other types of professional services, the church has to be taken into consideration as well with our unique circumstances.
I agree. No, we can't have spiritual communions forever. As a priest friend of mine said, well, that leads to, spiritual love and spiritual donations, and that's, maybe nice, but you got to keep the doors open. And the church, if we truly are going to accompany people, that takes contact. And I also think with the low death rate, I mean, when you look at the numbers in Illinois as opposed to New York and New Jersey, you've got 96 deaths. That's a very low number considering the mass of people you have. And I think that also should be taken into consideration here.
Well, yes, and I'm hoping they also take into consideration some of the regional differences. Here in central Illinois, there have been far fewer cases than there have been up in the Chicago area. So just as in New York, the governor of New York is talking about different restrictions for New York City as opposed to upstate New York. Well, here I think it would be similar, that I would hope that there might be some phasing in of counties. I've got some counties here in my diocese that have had no cases. And so to treat them the same as Cook County, Illinois, in the Chicago area, I think that has to be different. I think also in terms of, I was saying earlier that it seems a lot of people are coming to to watching the live stream videos, and that's a great thing. However, my concern would be that this doesn't become the new normal, where people think, hey, this is kind of nice. I can just sit at home in my pajamas and I can watch Mass on TV, and I kind of get used to this, well, I can't receive communion, but well, that's the way it is. There should be there should be a sense of people are missing this, and I hope they will start expressing that to their government officials too, that they want to get back to church and receive the sacraments.
I agree, and you're quite right. Subsidiarity should rule here. Each region, each county should be considered independently. We shouldn't look to New York or hot spots or New Orleans and let that govern the rest of the nation. I mean, even here in New Orleans, we've reached the top of the curve and it's way down. You got to start opening things up again, it seems to me. Otherwise, we have to shut down for every virus, every illness, every pandemic, and I don't know how you do that and keep a civil society going. I just don't. But Bishop, I thank you so much for your time, for your insight, and we'll be checking in with you in the days ahead.
Thank you, Raymond. God bless you and your viewers.
Thank you very much.